Sorry, that was my dog.
Okay, we should be live now. I'm going to share my screen. We can go ahead and get started. Okay. All right, let's see. Let me get a couple of panels open here so I can see who we've got. Bear with me. Chat. Okay. All right, hope everyone's doing well. Should have at least one or two people joining us, but it's nice to see those of you who are here. We have I've kind of merged the notes back into the workflow that I was using before, just cleaning things up a little bit. And we talked last week about kind of merging, or 2 weeks ago, about merging our strategic planning meetings into these. So I brought those notes into here. So hopefully we got everything in one place now, and we'll do our best to get through this in the 1 hour today, because we do have there's another meeting for new members in education following this that I hope some of you can also join. So I didn't have any action items. We're kind of starting from a clean slate here. Sarah, did you have any posts from the hub this week that we want to
Yes,
review?
there are several. I'm just dropping them into they're there. I just
Oh,
put them
excellent.
into the
Okay,
notes. Do you
got
see
it.
them?
All right. Oh, there's quite a few. Let's
Yeah.
try to move quickly through these. Alexander, random find on printables. Ooh, that looks cool. Improving fine motor skills. So this is assisting with rehabilitation for people with hand spasticity. This is by Piotrownik. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Looks like a pretty cool exoskeletal type design, something that we do have requests for from time to time. It would be really great if one of our volunteers wanted to try this out and report back to us on how it actually works. It looks like a really nice design that's easily printable. It looks like they're using shoelaces, if I'm not mistaken, for the cords running across the top, and then maybe just a Velcro strap at the bottom. So looks pretty straightforward. Very nice. Good find. Yeah, I mean, I think that speaks for itself. We'll just encourage people to try that out. It's a good find, Alexander. Thank you. Welcome, John. Fing.
Thank you. I'm really here. Can I interrupt for a moment?
Yeah, sure.
Um, I'm here to apologize that I'm not going to be able to be here.
Hey,
I have sent some background that you may want to look at. I'll view the recording and I'll come
you
back if
sent
I can.
background what, by email?
I did just send you an email.
Okay. So is that something I
Background
should
on
share here in the
the
meeting?
Big Map project.
Okay. All right. Well, I do have that big map project on the agenda. So when we get to that, I'll share your email. We'll look at that. All
Okay.
right.
See
Thanks,
you.
John.
Sorry.
All right. So Feng is a new member, but it's been following the forum for a while. He's a Gundam model enthusiast. Very cool. I would like to share a prosthetic arm that can use an airbrush. That's cool. Very nice. He used a syringe as a device to simulate hydraulics to control the airbrush switch. That is creative. You gonna load for me here? Come on, Hub. There you go. Look at that. Oh, so the bending of the arm compresses the syringe. Oh, very interesting. What a creative approach. All right. Well, so that is a very interesting task-specific design, and it's great that you're here, Ian. That would fit right into the catalog you're working on, which we'll be talking a little bit more about here. So excellent. Thank you for sharing that thing. Brandy, son's arm. Brandy, son was born missing his left arm below the elbow, and I was led to this wonderful group. Question is, how does this work if I want my son to have a 3D printed hand? Because the one he has now, the hand doesn't open wide even for him to grip things, and the suspension sleeves get stretched out quickly. It'd be nice to see a photo of what they have currently. Um, almost 5 now, and want to be able to have more activities with the left arm. So somebody provided a link to some details about e-NABLE Web Central and encouraged her to sign in there and create a request. So hopefully she'll do that. We're in this weird in-between state right now where we are doing our best to maintain e-NABLE Web Central, and Jonathan, who's here today, has been helping with case facilitation, but we are also working towards getting a new platform up and running. So we're in this kind of weird in-between phase right now, but I think that is the best place to point people to for right now. Yeah, so it sounds like Brandy has already gotten the direction she needs. I would say it's also fine to continue a dialogue in the hub, but it would be helpful if you would share a couple of photos so we could see her son's limb as well as the current device that she's referring to, so we can see what's not working well. And you could share that right in this thread here or in e-NABLE Web Central, either way. Anybody else have anything to add here? Okay, let's move on. Just want to move through these quickly. Tom Pendergast, what type of 3D devices are used to make the prosthesis? Okay, so there's a question about 3D printers. Like to look around and see if I can find someone with a compatible device nearby, but don't know what type of 3D printer to look for. So as Ayan pointed out, pretty much any type of 3D printer should work. Most of the ones you see here use FDM printers, which is correct. And I agree, pretty much any 3D printer works. The only ones you'd have trouble with are the little mini 3D printers that have tiny little build plates. We don't see too many of those anymore, but any standard size desktop 3D printer really should be fine. A heated bed is helpful, especially if you're using PETG, which is our recommended material. But again, most common desktop 3D printers nowadays fit that bill, so shouldn't have any problem. If you find somebody with a 3D printer, chances are it's just fine. Xavier or vocal control, okay. Just completed the first draft of a vocal control for the kinetic hand. Not perfect yet, but it sounds promising, right? I was afraid it would be a bit slow, but it's pretty good. Here's a demo. Well, let's watch this. It's only 30 seconds. Let me share with video. Hold on. Where's my sharing bar? Hold on, my Zoom controls are covered up. Here we go. Share sound, optimize for video. Go.
Connecter. Ouvrir. Fermer. OK. Ouvrir. Scratch. Ouvrir. Fermer. OK.
Okay, interesting. It's a fascinating demo. I think the question that comes to mind for me is, what is everyone's thoughts in terms of the practicality of a voice activated device? I wonder about the practicality of using that out in sort of daily life. What are your thoughts?
Definitely
Anyone?
a smaller learning curve than myoelectric, which I think is useful.
True.
So that could be beneficial.
Also easier for folks with who only retain single-sided handedness, because applying the myoelectric pads can be a challenge if you have general mobility deficits.
True. And it looks like he tied it into an app, a phone app. So I mean, I was thinking about like, how do you avoid just like false positive triggers when you're just talking to somebody, but I guess you would only run the app when you want to control it. So it probably wouldn't be an issue otherwise.
Yeah, it would also more like, I mean, for someone with that level of involvement, it would likely be done mostly around the home. So you run into less risk of like, there being surrounding noise that would dampen out the
Oh, there's a new
function.
demo in English. Cool.
Yeah. Or you just keep it in French in the US, keep it in English in France.
Yeah. Encourage a little cross-cultural learning. This is very cool. And there's been some good discussion already, and he's explaining some of the servo layouts that he's using. Very cool. I mean, it's a great project, and I want to thank Xavier for sharing. Anybody else have any comments or questions here? Said it's below, the building cost is below $60. Very nice.
Yeah, that's wild. I just saw a similar thing from a company that came out. This was on TikTok a couple of weeks ago. That started as I believe it was a grad student project, just first playing around with prosthetics. And now, of course, the way this pipeline works, they have started their own prosthetics company. And they're churning out, it's still low cost comparatively, but it's like $700 or $800 3D printed prosthetics that have all the bells and whistles and things, doing similar stuff. But this low tech stuff, I think, is just so much more impressive in a lot of ways.
That's
That
great.
one person can put something like that together.
Yeah, and I love how he shared the source files on GitHub and everything. There's a wiki for the documentation. Very nice. Okay, let's move on. I think that's another one that hopefully some of our volunteers will check out. And again, I want to encourage anyone who does find themselves, interested enough in any of these new designs to go ahead and try them out. Share your feedback. It's really valuable, not only to the rest of us as volunteers, but also to the designers to hear the experience of somebody else who puts these together and tries them, what, roadblocks you might have run into or any difficulties you find or anything. So if you do make one, please share it. Put a little video maybe on the hub, and any notes that you have. That's always very helpful. Eric. Okay, Eric Bubar, EMG sensor. Eric's always doing lots of work with EMG experiments. A linkage-based robotic hand reliably opening and closing with an EMG muscle sensing algorithm. Doesn't look like much, but we've figured out a good normalization procedure, applied a couple of good filters, and have removed wire motion artifacts from the signal, I think. Very cool. So he's talking about the basic control loop. 5-second closing operation, good strong flex, 10 seconds opens the hand. Very cool. There's some good discussion here. Are we still doing our bionic team meetings? I certainly hope this would be included in that next one.
Yes, we have a bionic group meeting next Friday.
Okay, let me switch my sharing mode here again real quick. Oh, I wasn't even sharing. There we go. So let me just play this one real quick. It's another short video.
So gravity, EMG sensor with surface electrodes, no gel electrodes. We are filtering now movement artifacts from within the wiring. So none of those will trigger your hand. We've got two 18650 batteries powering the servos, which are all connected through a servo driver board to a linkage-based prosthetic hand. And it's all run through a Nano 33 BLE Sense, which we can actually run off of just one additional 18650 battery. So right now it's all plugged into the computer, but when I flex, we can open the hand, and when I flex a little bit less time, we can close the hand. So we've got the algorithm working for flexing, for opening, and closing.
Wow, that's very cool. Amazing work as always, Eric. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else have questions or comments here? He shared the code. Yeah, let's just make sure that this gets to the right people for that next bionic meeting, so that can be included there. That looks very cool. Eric, rapid prototyping. This looks like the same project. Okay, so I assume this was shared before the other video. Or is this one? Let me play this real quick. This might be related to voice control.
No. Yes. No. So what you're seeing is a voice recognition functionality built into now the Nano 33 board. Same batteries, same servo driver, same hand. The voice commands, I'm using those because there's a large sample of data from Google of different voices actually saying those words. And that's what you need to do machine learning. So that's what's running on here. It's a machine learning model that has been taught to recognize the words yes, no, and that's it so far. You just need more voice samples to start teaching it more different poses.
Very cool. So it's neat to see them. I see a lot of collaboration between Eric and Xavier here. It's wonderful. Anyone else have comments or questions there? Okay. Give me 1 second. Need to show my video panel. There we go. All right. You guys are still seeing my screen now, the notes, right? Okay. So where were we? Nicole Fingers. Trying to find a device that'll be appropriate for a person who has their fingers but lost mobility due to an accident. Boy, I wonder if that device we saw earlier today would be relevant here. Somebody shared the frog arm, but I think that's pretty dated at this point. I don't know that it's really been maintained by Peter Binkley. Somebody here shared a solution on Facebook. Oh, yeah, there's another. I haven't seen this one either, but that looks similar. Looks like it's kind of more flexible materials. It doesn't have a lot of rigid components, which is interesting. Skip ahead here. Oh, very nice. Very nice. Okay. So that's a very nice looking option. And Sarah, could we ask you maybe to share the design also that Alexander found here as another possibility?
Yeah, sure.
That would be great. Okay. Chawanvit, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. We have been contacted by a teacher in our school who's enthusiastic to fundraise some money. However, since we are not in need of much funding, I was thinking of donating most of the money to the organization. I was wondering what the organization would do with the money and where the money would go to. Well, I mean, I'll start us off here. I mean, I think the simplest answer is that any donations would go into our e-NABLE fund, which is a shared fund that's managed by one of our chapters, e-NABLE Rochester, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. And that is a fund that is used to support projects throughout the global e-NABLE community. And the fund allocation is done through a community voting process. So anyone in the community can propose an initiative that they feel would be of benefit to the community. And then everyone else in the community can vote. They can discuss the proposal, and then they can vote on that proposal. And if it meets certain voting requirements that we've defined, then it gets approved and it gets funded out of that e-NABLE fund. So it's a great way to support the community, since all of those funds do go towards supporting, volunteer-run initiatives and initiatives that are geared towards helping the overall global community to meet its objectives and overcome any hurdles that are being faced. So anyone who would like to direct donations into that can always just go to finance.e-nable.org, as you're seeing there in my URL bar, and that will take you to our Open Collective page, where you have the option of just clicking on any of these predefined contribution buttons or a custom one-time donation of an amount that you can choose. And you can see all of those other donations that have been received here. You can see our current balance, which is pretty healthy right now, thanks to a large donation from Aero Electronics that we're working to put to good use. So yeah, that would be wonderful if you'd like to help support that fund. And those funds would go to support community projects, tax deductible, since it's going through a 501c3. Anyone else have any comments here? Anything to add? Okay, on we go. New member printer suggestions. Okay, don't see a chapter close to us. We're in Central New Jersey. How can we get started? Sarah, thank you for inviting them to the next new members meetup. Looking to buy a 3D printer. Do you have any suggestions? Yeah, so I think you gave the right response, Sarah, just directing them to that meeting. I think that meeting will be the best place to have that discussion. As we were saying earlier, just about any desktop 3D printer is going to be suitable for making these devices. It really comes down to more a question of, personal preferences and budget. There are very inexpensive machines that might not be quite as robust or quite as reliable as some that cost a little bit more. Lots of options in between. I know some of the ones that have been more popular in terms of what people have shared previously have been the Prusa machines, the Bamboo Lab machines, Creality machines. There's good options that are very affordable in all of those different groups. but yeah, I think if this person hopefully is able to join the new members meetup, I'm sure there will be good discussion there about other suggestions. Meanwhile, anyone care to add anything? Any suggestions? Okay, on we go. Last one, Thierry. Suggestion for the chapters map. It could be a great tool, but it's currently hard to use because of a lot of self-declared chapters no longer in activity. So it's nice for display, but barely usable as a contact tool since you spend more time chasing people than doing business with them. It should be possible to send once a year an automated email to each declared email address, asking them to review and correct their info, delete the chapter whose emails come back in error, et cetera, et cetera. Thierry is absolutely right here. We have tried this quite a few times in the past, doing a chapter audit, and unfortunately, it's never really been completed. People that were working on it sort of ended up kind of retiring before it was done, or we didn't have any success in getting responses to our emails. So there have always been these challenges, but I think John had suggested that this could be something that Sarah might have interest in taking on as one of these sort of funded initiative discussions that we've been having. Is that something that you might be interested in exploring, Sarah?
Um,
In terms of actually
hold on,
facilitating a chapter audit?
yes, I'm working on that now.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yes.
Well, so we can discuss that further. I want to make sure you have whatever support you need and the resources you need, but I think it's also very valid to think about that as possibly one of the funded initiatives that we do. I don't think that really falls within the realm of your standard sort of role that you're currently being supported for. So
Yeah.
if this is another project that you're going to take on outside of that, I think it would be very reasonable to look at having, some kind of a funded initiative to support that work. So we can talk about
Yeah.
that as soon as you have a sense of kind of what the work involved is and what next steps are.
Great. Thank you.
All right, so I don't have any kind of upcoming guest presentations. We do sometimes look for people to share the work they've been doing here in these meetings. We have had some very cool work that was shared on the hub. I just want to open that invitation up if any of those folks happen to be watching this, Eric or Xavier or any of the others that we've seen that are working on new designs. Feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to have you present what you're up to in one of these meetings. You can just reach out to me directly or reach out to Sarah or myself on the hub. My email is jeremy@3duniverse.org. That's the easiest one to use for me. I'm not doing the e-NABLE metrics right now. This is something we were tracking in the past. I'm hoping if this data is valuable to us, I'm hoping that somebody might be able to take over this initiative. I actually don't have a link in here to the spreadsheet itself anymore. But we have a spreadsheet where we're tracking, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. So we were tracking weekly statistics that kind of break out into these different charts to show, hub membership growth over time and hub activity and active chapters and help desk tickets and e-NABLE fund balance and, kind of these key metrics, but it was something that I wasn't able to keep up with. So we're missing about a year's worth of data at this point. And I just don't know if we've talked about it before. If this is something that is seen as having value, we would need to find a volunteer that could help us to get this back on track and get data, updated and figure out, what things we want to be tracking. And so I don't currently have anyone doing that, but it's out there if anyone is interested. Whoop, I replaced my notes link here. Hold on. All right, so on we go. Currently, we already looked at the fund balance. It's just over 100 grand. Don't have any upcoming one-time events. As far as recurring events, we've got the Education a New Member meetup today, right after this meeting in about 35 minutes.
It's actually at 1 Eastern.
Oh, it is.
Because when Ian and I scheduled it, it was before the strategic planning meetings were included in town halls. So it's at 1 p.m.
Oh, so I see. I'm seeing Central Time here. Okay, that's what threw me.
Eastern. Yeah.
Got it. 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So you get a break between this meeting and that one. All right. And then there's a summary of events. I put the link in here, but this is on the hub under the main forum wiki. there's a section in there that has all the monthly event schedules, and this is the one for May. So where are we here today? We're at the 17th. So we already talked about the Education New Members Meetup, which Ian is going to be leading for us. Then we've got on the 20th, that'll be Monday, the Chapter Leaders Roundtable, which John Schull will lead. The Bionics design meeting will be next Friday, the 24th, led by Eric Bubar. Great, so he'll be able to share that work he put in the hub. We've got the healthcare meetings happening. The next one is on Monday, May 27th, led by Tainara. And let's see, strategic planning, we've merged into these town halls, so we're going to be getting into some of those topics momentarily. And then these town halls are happening the first and third Fridays of each month now. Anything else that you wanted to touch on here, Sarah, in terms of your call for stories or any of that stuff?
No, I mean, I've gotten some a couple of great messages from people sharing stories, and I've interviewed a couple of people, and sort of holding on to that, and you know, we can talk more about what to do with that, and where that would go, either on the John's map or on the new website.
Right. Okay, great. All right, let's move on then to our discussion topics. So as far as the strategic planning goes, we've had a series of meetings outside of these town halls where we were looking at, okay, what are some of the things that we could do to make best use of some of that funding that we received recently from Aero Electronics. We're talking about some of those initiatives that we felt were most important to the community that might benefit from funding. And so I've captured some of those here. There was a very small one that John had put forward, and this actually got approved by this group, the Community Coordination Committee, in our last meeting 2 weeks ago, because it was at the $1,000 threshold that we can approve verbally in this group. And so he wanted to work on developing a big map, which is this basically global 3D map of you know, the Earth with pins on all the locations that highlight stories of activities that people are doing. It's something that he had built for the Eco Restoration Alliance, and had an individual that was ready to build something similar for e-NABLE. And we felt that investing $1,000 for an initial initial sort of development phase to build out the sort of the overall framework of that. It wouldn't be complete, but for that first phase, we talked about that last time, and we did approve by vote. So that's already in progress. John said that he sent me some details here. Let me stop my screen share for 1 second so I can pull up my email, and we'll see what he shared. Here it is here. Okay, share. All right, so all these documents. I'm trying to find the updates here. Things are moving with the big map scoping and wireframe activities. Phase 0 roadmap and kickoff meeting slides. Okay, maybe those are the updates. Yeah, okay, so let's look at those. Phase 0 roadmap. Got it. Okay. Project management notes, task management, file storage and sharing. We can skip all that. Roles of team members. I think Patrick is the one that John had talked about is taking the lead on this, and he's got others involved now from the look of it. Initial scoping and wireframing. Target completion of wireframes, targeting, well, right around now. And then targeting completion of report, spec sheet, and final proposal in the next week or so. So that's when they'll detail out what it would take to get this finished beyond the wireframes. Okay. And let's see what this other document was. Kickoff meeting slides. Try to see what would be relevant to us here. I think we already covered the value proposition last time. Design concept, okay, 3 pages, feed, map, and hub. Okay, so there'd be something on the hub. There'd be the map itself, and then some kind of a data feed, I guess. Clean, simple layout, custom data sets, access for limit efficient user, no login required. Okay. Data set 1 would be for chapters. And data set 2 would be for stories. Nice. Okay. There's a sample of the map view with the donate button. Nice. Searchable and filterable stories feed. Very nice. I'd shared as a suggestion last time. I don't know if it made it into these discussions, but it might be nice to have a simple like button on these stories, where people browsing stories could just simply click on a like, and there could be an option in the view up here to sort by most popular. And that way you could see the stories that have gotten the most likes, and that would be a way of maybe finding those that have been most impactful or have been most well received. And I thought that would be a nice, easy feature to add. I don't see that in the notes here yet, but maybe that's something that we could talk about later. Sharing from social media to the big map or from big map to social media. Okay. We're just talking about those sharing features, RSS data feed to aggregate social media posts, news articles, and more. It's not clear to me how that would be moderated, whether that would be an automated thing or whether it would need a person to moderate what goes into that feed. I'm guessing the latter, but I don't know. Then a feature info card to see a summary. Nice. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure John could do a better job of presenting these updates to us. Does anybody have any comments or questions based on what we did see there? Or we could just talk to John next time if that's easier. Okay. On we go then. So we have that in progress, and it looks like it's making good progress. We also are working towards a new matching platform and website. And the goal here is to build this out as the new sort of primary landing page for e-NABLE that does a better job of sort of presenting who we are and what we're about and how you can get help if that's what you're looking for, or how you can offer help if that's what you're looking for, and basically do a better job of getting people to wherever they need to get to in a simpler, less confusing manner than our current web assets are doing. We're modeling this off of a site that e-NABLE France built, which they did a really nice job on, but we want to make it a little bit more generalized with English as primary, and then bolting on additional language using the translation module that's already in there. And we've put together, Morgan, I should say, put together a nice proposal for how we could approach that. She wrote that up and put it in Lumio. We did have the voting going and completed that voting process with unanimous approval. 26 votes, all in favor, no abstentions or opposition to the proposal at all. So this is officially approved and officially off and running. Morgan, any thoughts on kind of next steps? You want to share again what you were saying at the beginning of the meeting about
Yeah.
conversations you've had?
Yeah, so trying to find some people to hire as contractors if anyone is experienced in PHP and or just or Google APIs. Those are things that would be very useful in this project. I do know people that I worked with at my old company that would be happy to be contractors and help with this project. They're very experienced in PHP. So I'm getting the names either today or tomorrow. I'm waiting for my contact and my old job to reach back out to me, but I had to wait for them to unfortunately be let go. So I could poach
Sounds
them,
good.
but yeah, I should get those names. I'm gonna set up a meeting with them, see if they're interested, and then go from there.
Very good. And Jonathan, does your schedule still allow for you to be involved in this project potentially?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Perfect.
So Sarah, you can check in with Jonathan too, and I think there's a number of content related components to this that you might be able to help with in terms of just getting the site prepared with the content that we want in terms of how we present the community, as well as just some of the translation stuff. There's a lot of translation work that needs to be done from,
Yeah.
even some of the French that's in the code right now that needs to be translated to English. And a lot of that is just copy and paste translation stuff. So,
Yeah, we'll probably start with that. I'll set up a meeting for next week.
okay, great.
Jonathan, if you and I, we can just start on the translation piece while we get other people to join the team.
Very good. So that's off and
Good for
running.
me.
That's exciting because that's a really key project that other initiatives that we'll talk about here also sort of depend on. So we're hoping to be able to get that done in the next couple of months so that we can then move forward with some of these other initiatives. Madison had proposed a role of outreach coordinator. at 5 to 15 hours per week, and put together a Lumio proposal on that, which has been running as a discussion thread in Lumio. I think it's certainly time to get that going as a voting process. It's been running longer than needed for discussion. I don't know. Madison's not here, right? No. So I don't know if I think we made, if I recall correctly, I think we changed things so that only the admins on Lumio are able to actually start a vote now. So she might be waiting for help from one of us. Sarah, are you an admin on Lumio, or do we have that just as John and I right now? I don't
No,
recall.
I don't think I am.
Okay, we should
Um,
make you an admin so you can help with that too, if you're comfortable doing that.
Sure.
But yeah, I think we have it limited to admins only. So one of us needs to help her get that vote going. I wonder if Sarah, you could just help by reaching out to Madison to make sure that she is ready for that she's okay if we start the voting process. Has she had
Yeah,
enough,
yeah,
feedback? And then
yeah.
let me know and I can help get it going and get you set up as an admin there for future
Okay.
proposals.
Okay.
So that'll be for another potentially a $12,000 funded initiative that would cover 1 year. Probably not paid out all at once. We usually do those, with, I don't know, quarterly benchmarks or something like that. And then another initiative that we talked about was for Sarah to help create a 1 to 2 page e-NABLE overview and potentially a cover letter to be used with our grant application process that Jason's been working on. Here's a sample of something she's done in the past that was the kind of thing we're thinking about. This one's maybe a little bit longer,
Yeah, just to sort of clarify, that was a really big effort. It took months and
Yeah.
involved like software to do this that I no longer have access to, and then also just like months of on the ground research and literature
Sure.
review and all of that. So
Yeah, you can tell.
a
But just
1
as
to
far
2
as the
pager.
overall look of it, that's the
um
kind of document we were thinking of, but maybe in
yeah.
a 2 page format or something.
Yeah, so I you know am not a graphic designer. Graphics and layout, that's not my strong suit. So we might I can use a template, or we might want to bring someone else in for that, but just for text and maybe identifying photos to pull, and but getting the
Well,
text
so
of
Sarah,
the
we had talked about you drafting something for Lumio, and I don't know if you've gotten to that, but I would suggest that you draft the outline of the project where you would be doing the parts that you're comfortable with. You'd be kind of
yeah.
coming up with the content, and then just assume that we're going to use a contractor for the layout.
Okay.
We could
Okay.
hire somebody on Fiverr or, whatever, site we want to look to.
Okay.
I don't think that would be a
Yeah.
very expensive initiative.
I mean, I'm happy to create a proposal, or I can just say that I can get the content together for a 1 to 2 pager, and cover letter. I'm happy to do that for 600. Would you still like me to write a proposal, or?
Well, I think, I mean, if you think that this is a $600 initiative, which just, I mean, off the top of my head, that sounds like you might be, I don't want to say cutting yourself short, but it feels like it's a lot of work to me. I want to make sure that you're getting
Yeah.
appropriately compensated.
Okay.
If you were confident about that, then it's the kind of thing that we could just approve in one of these meetings by a simple vote and avoid the Lumio process altogether. I would say my recommendation would be that we postpone that conversation until next time,
Okay.
just because I think John would have valuable input, and he might, join me in suggesting that we, look at a slightly higher number than that, just to make sure that
Okay.
you have what you need to get this done right.
Okay.
But up to $1,000, we can still get approved outside of Lumio process. And then maybe we just handle the graphic layout portion separately, which
Yeah.
could be handled through a similar vote then when it comes to that point. So maybe we should just talk
Okay.
about this next time, but it sounds
Sure.
like it's viable, and we should just
Yeah,
talk
no,
a little bit more about the work involved.
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay.
And then we talked about at some later point needing to hire a digital marketing and PR firm, because once we have the new website up and we really have someplace to send people, you know, someplace that clearly outlines what we're about and how they can get involved and how they can get help, you know, really then it's time to start working to address, I think, what is probably our most significant shortcoming right now as a community, which is that we have this huge number of volunteers and not a huge number of people actually asking for devices. We know the people are out there, but we haven't done a good enough job as a community of getting the word out there to the public to say, hey, we're here. Here's what we can do. We can help you, no charge. You just got to come and, you know, here's how you request the device. We haven't done a good enough job of getting that word out. So once we have a good website to link people to with this new matching platform, I think it makes sense to hire a firm with actual experience doing digital marketing and PR to help us with a campaign to, you know, get, you know, ads going. We have free access to Google Ads as a nonprofit that can help to, you know, get the word out there, posting on social media, writing up blog articles, just anything that we can do to help, you know, reach the people that we want to help and make them aware of the fact that we're here and have services available. So that's something we've talked about and allocating funding for, but we kind of need to get at least this first initiative done first, getting that new website up and running so that we have the right place to send people in those campaigns. So another thing we've been talking about is catalog management. And we have two parallel initiatives going on here. One is what we're thinking of as our full and complete catalog, which would be housed on NIH 3D, which Ian Roy is leading up with the help of an intern that we want to talk about here. The other one is on printables, which Eric Bubar is heading up. And that one is a much more condensed kind of a catalog that is just those designs that we consider most recommended right now. So right now it's got the Kinetic and the Kawawu and I don't remember one or two others, but it would not be the full catalog. It would just be the ones where if somebody just says, I'm looking to make a, you know, a hand, or I'm looking to make an arm, what should I make? Those would be the ones that are kind of most recommended right now, based on testing and feedback, et cetera. So I don't think we don't have Eric today, so we'll kind of save that discussion for another time, but we do have Ian today. And we were just talking earlier about how classes have wrapped up, so it's a good time to have this discussion. So you had talked about doing a proposal for, was it one intern to help with this for the summer, or two?
Like 2 summer interns. I put a link into the chat. You could open it up.
Okay.
We could look at it quickly.
That's
And based on our
fine, yeah.
discussion, I just made a tweak or two to it. I do think
Excellent.
that, especially at these town halls, when you go over the new models, it would be great if whoever is doing this internship could attend and continue to add those new things as they come in.
Absolutely, yeah.
So this is about where it's been for a couple months in the proposal. I think it's ready for Lumio if others agree. And if you scroll down, I did add one additional thing on ongoing upkeep, an hour a week for a year to add new models as they come in, which we could decide to modify. But I thought this ongoing upkeep, the big piece of this is the initial build out. A lot of those models were imported by one of my students into there, but it has not been sorted. They haven't had the time to actually standardize and section out. So the goal would be that the top stuff floats to the top, sort of like if anyone has used the NIH 3D Print Exchange for PPE, they were a clearinghouse for a lot of PPE stuff during the pandemic. And that's sort of the model that we'd like to go after, is like floating the top stuff to the top, but then also collecting all of the designs in a searchable, sortable repository. And the engineers on the website of NIH 3D are willing to help us customize some of those fields as long as we develop the schema for how we want it to look, what buttons, how the search and sort can help people find stuff.
That's terrific. Okay, well, that looks and sounds great to me. I would definitely encourage you to put this up as a discussion thread on Lumio. We just need to let that run for, I don't remember what it is. I think it's 10 days that it needs to run for discussion. And
Cool.
and then we can start the voting, or maybe it was a week. It's
So
on
I can
Lumio.
try to get that going today, but I've never done it. I'm in Lumio, I vote there. Would I just
Okay,
go
so
into
as
it
long
and
as
start a
if you're
discussion?
signed into Lumio, just click on new thread.
Okay.
There's a new thread button, and you can use this. Well, I think you've already pretty much got this all in your template. So you just copy and paste your document right into here. And
Cool.
and you just don't start the vote yet. Just put it out there for discussion. And then after it's run for, I think it's a week. Let me just check here. period of 1 week. Yeah. So discussion for 1
Cool.
week and then voting for 10 calendar days. So yeah,
Great.
let's get it out there just for discussion. And then after a week, we can get the voting process started. And
Awesome.
that seems like a very reasonable amount you're asking for. And I think that has a lot of value. So I don't think we're going to have trouble getting that supported.
Great. I will post
Great.
it today. And one
Excellent.
other thing I wanted to just bring up while we're on this thread, you mentioned the marketing and some other of these initiatives. There's a potential for a different student labor exchange than money that we could do through Brandeis. There's a class that I'm going to start stewarding in the fall where we place a board fellow, like a business school student, usually like MBA track or a Master of Science in Finance track, on the board of a nonprofit, and they do board level projects from August through May. So we just wrapped up another cohort of this, and we could and they get credits. That's a graded class where they work on whatever the board of those nonprofits need. And we could definitely find a way to place a student into the e-NABLE infrastructure, and then they wouldn't need to be paid. They would do it for a credit-bearing course.
Oh man, there is nothing more effective than a graduate student seeking credit. That would be a great idea.
And so the model that this comes from, oops, if I can grab the website properly, you can click on this website here, which is our yearly hackathon. And actually, hold on, you got to go to the old/2024 here. Here's last year's, sorry, the second link. And then scroll down. You can see the type of nonprofits we've worked with in the past. So this class feeds into a hackathon. So, and this is one of our value props, where rather than having like a flash in the pan where there's a canned activity, we bring the challenges of all these nonprofits to an event, and then the board fellow implements them. So these are the nonprofits we worked with this year. This is the 7th year in a row. Professor Jean Miller at our business school built this, but I'm going to be taking it over while she's on sabbatical. And I would love to place one of the students into the e-NABLE organization.
Wonderful. Yeah, that sounds fantastic. And what is this, a summer kind of intern program, or what's the duration of this?
It's a 2-semester 4-credit course. So it meets once a week from August through May. And what we would really need is just who would be their handler in the e-NABLE governance organization. And they would probably want like an hour every week or two, and like what's the structure of the board, which I know we've been talking about for them to work with. Like who would they give their presentation
that's where it
to?
gets a little tricky. I mean, because if we're talking about the organization sort of as a whole, it doesn't really formally exist. We don't have a board other than this, the weekly, coordination committee, which is whoever shows up each week. We don't really have official roles. There are discrete, chapters registered as nonprofits that each would have, a board in some form. But I don't know which, how we approach that, where it's the right fit for your program. But I'd love to explore that and figure out how to make that work. I think that might, again, be a good discussion to have when John's here, maybe next time.
Totally. And this is a thing we could decide in July, as long as we know, like by the beginning of August, that we want to go in this direction. We have a month or two to figure it out.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I just, at this point, I just don't know that one piece of, who would that primary point of contact be that they would work with.
Yep.
Because I don't know that we have that person at this time. So we have to figure that out. But I love the program idea. Okay, I don't think we have, we don't have Jason. I don't know if, Adam, do you happen to have any updates or anything to share as far as grant activities?
I'm afraid I don't. I'm not privy to that currently. I realize we've only got 10 minutes left. Sarah has been trying to communicate with me about the assistive technology initiatives that have been a bit stalled. I saw there was a bullet point up above. It would be okay. If it would be okay, I'd like to discuss that briefly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I meant to. Did I skip over it? Where did I put it here?
Yeah, thank you so much, Adam. I was just about to ask about that.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I've just been getting a lot of requests from people who
That's great.
And I don't know what to tell them other than directing them to you. So
Well, I have been wallowing in a pit of,
Oh,
you know,
there it is.
self-pity and stuff lately, and I am, I think, finally a fully functioning human again. And my apologies for being a bit out of contact for the past few months, but I'm really excited to jump back into this and try to actualize part of what I was originally brought into this team for, which is attempting to do exactly this, of reaching out to groups and folks who could actually connect, as Jeremy pointed out, the sort of perennial issue that we have, our glut of people who want to do things and relative paucity of recipients. I think that there's a lot. Oh, man, this also dovetails really nicely with Jeremy, what you were talking about with bringing in a PR team and raising awareness, because I think really the issue at play here is that there are pockets of folks who could use the efforts of this community, but either A, they don't know who we are or that we exist, or B, there are sort of there are tranches of other options that have, how do I put this, vested interests in things kind of staying the way they are. I think that we have some infrastructure in place, especially if we were to approach, like, you know, healthcare systems and things. You know, there's a reason that we don't get a lot of traction among providers, and that's because, you know, there's a market for prosthetic devices that are sold at a price. And I think that if we can do a better job of raising our profile, being generally recognizable as a community of folks who genuinely want to assist people without costing them anything, I think that we could start making a lot more traction. So yeah, I'm really excited that the website is on track to getting developed, that we could potentially have a functional matching platform sometime in the next year. That would be amazing. Or like, I should say more functional. Yeah, all of this I think is very exciting, and I really hope that we can start seeing some steps here in terms of what I can do. Sarah, I'm at your service. I'm hoping that Madison can get approved really quickly in this outreach role that is being put forward on Lumio. Just putting my hat in the ring for her, I think that she is one of the people I've been most impressed by in meeting through this community here. And I think that she would do amazing work with her team in DC. I also think that she just is positioned near some levers of influence, given her employer and the people in her network. And I think that inner folks could do a lot.
I'm sorry, could I feel like I need to ask a clarifying question. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. I ramble,
like,
you know me.
I mean, the state assistive program, I thought that was something that you started. So I don't know anything about that. I really,
oh, no, you're fine.
Like, I can't do, I mean, if you have a framework, I would like to be able to help people and say, when they say, how do I get started? I could say, okay, you're in Texas, here's a contact for you. Like, if you have something like that, but I mean, I really just don't know at all.
No, and my apologies. My intention wasn't to imply that you hold the keys, rather than just that I've been out of communication. So if you could, I know you sent me a couple of emails. Let's maybe connect offline. You know, we can just ping back and forth if that's all right. And I can make sure I've got my hands wrapped around all of the folks who have reached out to you or who have reached out on the hub. And I can start making some phone calls. I can start setting aside some time and try to establish more of a framework so that we can automate as much of this as possible. If that's creating a more robust presence on the hub, if that's making sure that people know that they can reach out to me specifically for these kinds of requests, whatever I need to do, I'm happy to jump back in.
Okay, great. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah. My
Excellent.
pleasure.
Yeah, and I had received an inquiry from my contact over at the Illinois Assistive Technology Program, Kathy, and she wanted to kind of meet with me to talk about sort of who's the lead on this now, because she was under the impression that you were sort of retiring. I said, no, he's still with us. So I'm glad to better understand that. I can let her know that you're still going to be working on this, and that Sarah.
Yeah, and I think Courtney Knowles, who I believe is a CODA, working with her. She's still involved.
Yep, she's still involved too.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, happy to jump back in. Once again, here's my last apology. I'll try to make sure it doesn't happen again. But yeah, ready to get back
Sounds
into
good.
it.
Sounds good. Okay. Okay, I think we're just about at the end of our time here, but we got through most of this. I just want to highlight that we do have some active volunteering needs right now. We've talked about having a hub greeter. I know that Sarah does her best to keep up on this, but you know, if anyone else is interested in helping with just making sure that everybody new that comes into the community, that comes into the hub, you know, somebody welcomes them and kind of maybe helps them find their way to whatever they need to get to for next steps. You know, invites them to that new member meetup and things like
Yeah,
that. And again, Sarah, you've done a great job
I
with
do
that.
that for everyone, but yeah, I mean, if anyone else wants to do that additionally, that's great. But
Okay, great.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you
Um,
feel like you have a handle on it, that's wonderful.
yeah,
But
I don't think I've missed um anyone.
excellent. Okay. So then we don't even need to consider
But
that a current need, just something that others could help with if they're interested.
you know, I mean, it's always great if people want to jump in if they have, you know, just because I don't have any engineering background, so if they have
Right.
more specific knowledge about what certain people are interested in, that's great too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So just making sure we're answering people's questions and interacting with them as much as we can.
yeah.
Case facilitation is something that Jonathan has been a terrific help with already, and I hope will be going forward as well. I left this generic. I didn't say enable Web Central case facilitation because that's where we're doing it right now. But once we get this new platform up and running, I'm hoping that, you know, Jonathan, you'll continue with just, it'll be under a new platform, but we'll still need help just kind of monitoring cases and making sure people are connected and have access to whatever they need. And so there'll still be definitely a lot of value in your assistance there. But thanks for everything you've been doing on Enable Web Central to help with the cases there.
Thanks, Jeremy.
And then another area that I need some help with that Jonathan has also generously offered to work with me on is managing our digital badge awards. But this is something that doesn't need to be one person. We can have multiple people helping with this as we used to. And it can be kind of, you know, a new request for a badge comes in. Whoever gets to it first can review it and approve it or send back whatever notes are needed. So Jonathan and I are meeting soon. I don't remember when that is, at Monday or something, but sometime the next week, I know. We have a meeting coming up where I'll be going through that process with Jonathan as far as how we manage those badge requests, and he's going to be helping out. If anybody else is interested in that, that's probably the more time consuming thing for me these days. 'Cause we have been getting a lot of badge requests, especially when sometimes we have a school that comes in and the teacher will have all of their students go through and get the badges. And so and when it's badges, you know, sometimes it's for making a device, and I can, you know, those are pretty quick. You just have to look at the photos and the video and make sure that everything is put together properly. When it's a sizing volunteer, those are a little more time consuming because they have to actually evaluate multiple test cases and make recommendations. And there's a lot of it's not something that you can do as quickly. It takes more time to review each of those submissions. And we've had some of those recently where, like, you know, a whole classroom of students, you know, went after that sizing volunteer badge. And so I will welcome having other volunteers assisting with these badge reviews, starting with Jonathan, but it would be very nice to have others as well. So if anyone is interested in that process, let me know. But those are places that we can always use more volunteer assistance. And that's about it. We're about out of time. We'll talk about some of these other things. These are lower priority things that we just talked about at points in the past. We can get into that next time. But I think for right now, we'll wrap it up. Anybody have anything that we didn't get to before we wrap?
No,
Okay.
thanks, Jeremy.
I
Ian,
hope some
I'll
of
see
you
you in an
will.
hour.
Yes,
I'll
in an
see y'all in an
hour,
hour.
we'll have the education and new members meetup. Please join for that if you're available. And we'll see
And
you
I
again
posted
on
the
the
NIH thing. It's on Lumio.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Bye.